right? There were 3 different items and there were 3 different prices. So we needed the 3 items and their 3 prices in order to multiply them together. That's kind of the idea. And then basically when I show you the dimensions, the stuff in the middle has to be the same. The product matrix will have the number of rows from the first matrix and the number of columns from the second matrix. So our results was the cost for the women's team and the cost for the men's team. Where did that dimension come from? I just gave you a bunch of empty matrices here just so we could only look at the dimensions first. And it's good practice on what the dimensions of a matrix are. So number 1, what are the dimensions? Remember, it's always rows times columns for your dimensions. So number 1, what size matrix is that? Number 1, this is a 4-row by 2 columns. So underneath it, I'm just going to write out 4 by 2. What are the dimensions of the second matrix? All right, 2 by 3. Is the stuff in the middle the same? See how the number of columns here matches the number of rows here? So if the stuff in the middle is the same, the product matrix has a 4 by 3 result. So let's draw out what a 4 by 3 matrix would be. So it has 4 rows, 3 columns. So you have to be able to know what your resulting matrix is going to look like before you start even multiplying. Because if you don't know how many numbers you're looking for, it's hard to do the multiplication. Could you try 2, 3, and 4 the same way? If the stuff in the middle does not match up, you cannot do the multiplication, so it would just be undefined. But I think 2 of them will work and 1 of them does not work. So see if you can do the dimensions for each of those. All right, let's just see. We got a 2 by 3, and then, 2 by 4, 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is a 4 by 2. So the stuff in the middle matches, and you're going to get a 2 by 2 result. So I'm going to show you how to fill that in with numbers in a minute. But let's see, this one was 2 rows, 3 columns, 3 rows, 1 column. That matches. So a 2 by 1, it has 2 rows and 1 column. Looks like that, right? The last one, you could have added these together, but if you have a 2 by 3 and another 2 by 3, you actually cannot multiply them together. And if you tried to do it on your calculator, it will also tell you error, I can't do this. Because matrix multiplication is not taking this number and multiplying by this number. Matrix multiplication is doing that softball, baseball problem. You have stuff over here, and it's all getting multiplied over here to give you a sum at the end, basically. All right, so let's walk through the steps of matrix multiplication step by step. The first step, again, is can you do the problem? This is a 1 by 3. This is a 3 by 2. So yes, I can do this problem. And I'm going to have 1 row, 2 columns, right? So I'm looking for a resulting matrix that looks like that. How am I going to find my solution? If this is position row 1, column 1, then you're going to take row 1 from the first matrix and multiply by column 1 of the second matrix. So if I multiply row 1, I take the 1 times the 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. Then I'm going to take the middle term, 0, times the middle term, 1. So 0 times 1 is 0. Eventually you can do this in your head. I'm just showing you the steps. Then I'm going to take that third term, which is 4, times this bottom term, which is -1. So 4 times -1 is -4. You're going to take the sum of those numbers, just like you took the sum of the baseball equipment. So what's the total sum? -2. So when I multiplied row 1 times column 1 and took the sum, I got -2 for all that work. So let's do, now I slide over to this position. Now I'm in row 1, but now I'm in column 2. So now I'm going to switch what I'm looking at. I'm still going to look at row 1, but now I want to look at only column 2. So 1 times 5 is 5. 0 times -2 is 0. And 4 times 0 is 0. So my sum is 5. So see how you kind of slide your finger? First term, second term, third term. So you multiply them each out and then add them together. Isn't that crazy that that is matrix multiplication? I wish it was as easy as adding and subtracting matrices. But so let's do another one together and then see if you can try some. First, we have to set up our product matrix. So this is 3 rows by 2 columns and 2 by 2. The stuff in the middle matches. So I'm looking for a 3 by 2 result. So I got to do this 6 times here. All right, so the way that I stay organized, if I'm in row 1, I do all of row 1 first. So I'm going to do row 1, and I'm going to do it column 1, get the answer, and then column 2, get the answer. So to get these two positions, I'm taking 1 times 1, which is 1, and -2 times 0 is 0. So the answer to that first slot would just be 1. And then I'm just going to stay in the same row, but I'm going to slide over. So now I'm doing 1 times 2 plus -2 times -1. So 2 plus 2 gives me 4 as my second position. Does that kind of make sense? And then I'm just going to cross off row 1 because I've used it, and I'm going to circle row 2, and I'm going to repeat the process. So I'm going to do this 4, 0 times column 1 and times column 2 to get the next two positions. So 4 times 1 happens to just be 4, because then I get 0. And then 4 times 2 is 8, and then I just get 0, so 8. So 4, 8 is the second row, and then I'm just going to kind of cross off that I'm done with that one. So now I'm at -7 and -3 for the last set, and I just get -7 because then I get 0, so -7. And then this time I have to multiply, I get -14, and then I get +3. So -14 plus 3 would be -11 for my last term. So it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of organization. You could check your answer on the graphing calculator if you wanted to. Let's see if it gives you some guided practice on the next page. Yeah. So I'd love for you to work through this back page. And I can come around and help you, but it should take you a little bit. So you're doing 1 through 4. And then I guess I could have gone back and done the, if you have time, I'd love for you to go back and answer the questions on, what did I skip? Yeah. Well, if you have time, go back to 80, whatever it was. But first priority is, can you do this back page? So, figure out, can you do it with the dimensions? Then can you multiply in this order, B times A? What's the product? You might want to write them out. So this is 2, -1, 3, 5, 4, -2, 3, -1, 6, -5. So can you do that? What's the answer? And then can you do it in this order? 4, -2, 3, -1, 6, -5 times 2, -1, 3, 5. So you may or may not be able to do it, and you're probably going to get a different answer because multiplication is not commutative like addition is. Right? So make sure that you write it out in the new order for part B and see if you can do it and see if the answer comes out the same. So I will let you try those. I'll come up with an answer key so you can check it kind of near the end. Here are the answers to the guided practice if you want to check.